If you have time to watch TV, you have time to side hustle. If you have time to read, even though you may love to read, you have time to side hustle. Side hustling is about monetizing your downtime.
It's all about priorities, isn't it? Well, hi there, and welcome to Side Hustle Hero, the show of laser focus to inspire you to take action to start or to scale your side hustle income streams. I'm your host, Joan Possibie, author of The Way Success Works. In our last episode, Christine Schaub shared her 6 side hustles, explaining how she stacks them, often working several or sometimes all in a single day. In this part 2 of our conversation, we shift our focus for tips on running and growing your side hustle. Christine is the author of Queen of the Side Hustle, Unleashing Your Potential for Extra Income. You'll hear about what to do if marketing is just not your thing, how to overcome the feeling of bragging when promoting your skills, where to find time for your side hustle, the importance of paying attention to taxes and insurance, and the exponential benefits of adding value without adding cost. But first, here's a little something fun. If our chats are lighting up your entrepreneurial spark and you're gaining insights, inspiration, and ahas, a fun way to show your support and to give the show a caffeinated thumbs up is to head on over to sidehustlehero.com/support, where you can shoot me over a large soy latte, or maybe even a double espresso. It really is a thing over at sidehustlehero.com/support. Thank you from the bottom of my coffee cup. Now here's my conversation with the author of The Queen of the Side Hustle, Christine Schaub. So in addition to juggling your 6 side hustles, you help people get started in theirs. You wrote a book about it. What prompted you to write Queen of the Side Hustle?
I spouted that title during filming of the Come On Over show. We were setting up for a new episode, and there's often a change in props, and we have to touch up the hair and makeup and set the lighting and maybe go to a new location, and that takes a bit of time. And so during that, we're often chatting, and the prop master said something about, you have to leave here and go take care of dogs. And I said, yeah, I do when we're done with this. And she said, well, how many side hustles do you have? And I said, well, I'm the queen of the side hustle. And my publicist went, that's a book. And I thought, oh, great. She's now come up with one more thing for me to do.
Yeah.
And so I kind of, rolled my eyes and blew it off, but she stayed on me and she says, I really think that there's a market for this. And I've looked online and it's trendy and people want to learn how to do this. And you have all this information. And I'm like, I don't write if I'm not getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of work.
It is. Yeah.
And she said, I think this could be pretty profitable, especially if we publish this book through Amazon. Amazon publishing is now so sophisticated.
Mm-hmm.
So I recorded an audio version of this professionally. You have to pass all of their rules and they'll reject it for the tiniest reason. So with this information about the publishing in her back pocket, she talked me into the manuscript, and my publicist helped me outline the chapters, gave me ideas for things that were popular, things people were researching, trending. We did use some AI tools to help us see what people wanted to learn about.
Sure.
What people were taking classes in, hot topics, and then we shaped the book around that. And then I just started where I wanted to. I actually wrote the tax chapter first.
Oh, gosh, get it over with.
No, it wasn't to get it over with, shockingly. No. It's because that's what people ask me the most questions about.
Really?
When they want to be self-employed, they want to work on the side. They don't want to work corporate anymore. So people want to meet with me because they've heard that I've gotten good at this. I've gotten good at the financial part, not just taxes, but contracts and all of the nitty-gritty part that goes into being successful.
Important elements.
Yes. And so I started with that chapter because that's what I talk about the most. And then I got into other things like time management, fork to my eye. But people want to talk about that. I mean, my style of time management is not going to be your style of time management, but I did have to talk about that you need a style of time management, because being self-employed, you're the boss.
Yes.
And you don't want to put yourself on double secret probation because you're not completing your work, because you're not managing your time. So there were chapters that I felt were drier topics. I tried to make them more fun. And then there were definitely more fun chapters to talk about, like marketing yourself. I think that's a really fun thing. And people don't know how to do that, and they're not good at it. So I just tapped into all those things that people are researching and wanting to know how to do, and created an easy read book.
Right. So it helps more people get their business off the ground and look after a number of the important aspects for basically any side hustle they choose.
Yes. And it's a reality check about what is involved in side hustles.
Okay.
People don't have a good perspective of that if they've never done it.
Right. Like you mentioned the taxes. If somebody had only been working for a company, as you mentioned, the taxes are deducted and they don't have to look after that. Now you need to look after it. Just because you might not have enough money in the bank, that doesn't mean that those taxes aren't due. So I remember one particular company I had with myself, and there was two business partners. It was in the flower industry, and I insisted on a separate like sub account. That as the money came in, the taxes that were due, like provincial or state tax, whatever, got put in there, got segregated, because that was not our money to spend. Oh, come on, can't we? We could really use. No, we can't use it. We're going to run into problems. That's not ours. It feels like it is, but it's not. And
it's
then
not.
Yeah. And then as far as the time management piece you mentioned, what do you say to the person who says, I'd love to start a side hustle, but I just can't find the time?
I would say, if you have time to watch TV, you have time to side hustle. If you have time to read, even though you may love to read, you have time to side hustle. Side hustling is about monetizing your downtime. So you're working on the side, meaning that you have usually a corporate job going, your full-time job, and you're doing something on the side to either cash flow a vacation, a dream vacation, or classes you want to take, or pay for private schooling for your children, or get some sort of medical procedure done that you're wanting to do. There's a reason, and you must have a reason to side hustle and make that money on the side. So you're looking at time that you have when you're not corporate working.
Right. Okay.
That's your side hustle time.
So then it becomes a matter of priorities. What's more important to you?
Right. And that's why I say to people, start small and experiment. Because if you realize I would rather read than side hustle, then read. Don't side hustle, because you don't want to waste your downtime. Or maybe you do. Maybe you want to just waste time and hang out or surf online. Then do that. But if you're wanting to side hustle, you have to put aside the surfing. And I will say that's probably one of the hardest things about side hustling, is not getting distracted by your phone, your electronic devices,
right,
what's blowing in the wind outside, invitations to go have coffee, that pile of laundry that you could be doing because you're at home and you should be side hustling. There are so many things that can distract you from monetizing your downtime that you have to be really good at managing that time.
Yes. And it's funny you mentioned that. Just this past Tuesday, usually Tuesdays, half the day, I'm working at a private club and I get a lot of work done. It's like head down at work. This past Tuesday, I didn't do that. I was working from home. And I realized that after that half day passed, it's like, you know what? I was nowhere near as productive, because if I was at the club working, I wouldn't be putting on that load of laundry or prepping the lunch like I was doing. And
yes,
I think I'll stick going back to the club. It's just easier to remain focused that way, right?
Well, for some people, but not everybody.
Yeah.
One of my struggles in the corporate world was how much people interrupted my time.
Yes.
And I work for companies that had an open door policy. You were not allowed to close the door on your office. So there could be a virtual party going on outside, and I'm on the phone with the governor, and he can't hear me.
Wow.
And I had to close the door. And it was very distracting to have that kind of constant interruption in a corporate environment where you're supposed to be focused. At home, I can be talking on the phone with a client and putting dishes in the dishwasher or loading the laundry. I'm actually pretty good.
Yes.
Because I do want to
Yeah.
have free time to read or garden in my own garden.
Yeah.
I want to block off that time. So I really want to get the work monkey off my back so I can go do what I want to do.
I used to teach a lot of management seminars, and I remember one statistic from years ago about all the interruptions, and that it took 4 to 5 minutes after the interruption to get back to where you were.
Yes.
And so you stack those on time, and that's a lot of waste of time during the day. There is not a lack of side hustle options out there. There's so many opportunities for people, whether they want to work in front of the computer or they want to, get their hands in the clay type of thing, doing something outdoors. But it seems the challenge is actually starting. What do you think the biggest thing is that stops a person from getting started?
My opinion is people are uncomfortable marketing themselves.
Mm-hmm. Especially
So
the
they have,
creatives. Yeah.
well, even people who sew. They think, how am I
Yeah.
going to get the word out? And you could ask a client, hey, could you spread the word? But then you're asking somebody else to market you instead of you marketing you. And I did spend quite a bit of time in the book on marketing yourself because it is a challenge for people who don't naturally know how to do that. I was trained in marketing. I know how to market. I'm very good at, I don't know, slipping my book cover into a podcast, a very successful podcast, because I know how to market. But a lot of people feel like if they talk about themselves and their skills, they're bragging. Well, guess what? You are bragging. You're telling people what you're good at doing. So I think that's one of the toughest ones.
Okay.
And to those people, I say, use an existing platform. So let's say that you want to dog sit. Use Rover because Rover will market for you. Now
Got it.
you will
Okay.
pay.
Yes.
You will pay some of your earnings for them marketing you, but it may be totally worth it to you because you're not comfortable marketing yourself. The days of tacking up, need a dog sitter with a little tear off phone number.
Exactly.
Those days are gone.
Yeah.
Now you can use existing platforms who are willing to market for you. And then you can sign up. You usually have to answer some questions. They may interview you or send you on a trial run. And if you do a great job, you're in and
Right.
off you go. And that way you can reject jobs you don't want, accept the ones you do. Again, working when you want to work, when you want to monetize your downtime. And they do that kind of work for you. That's what I would recommend to people who are just unsure and kind of want to dip their toe. Here's a great example. There are many applications, but the one I know the most of is Tackle, Takl.
Okay.
And this is a platform where you want people to do odd jobs for you. And it could be anything from hanging framed photos on your wall,
Okay.
hanging curtains, changing light bulbs, changing out a light switch, repairing a wheelbarrow. I mean, it could be any little job that you
Okay.
just can't do. You go into Tackle, you find someone who'll do it, you agree to the price, they come do it, and it's done.
Yes.
I mean, think about all those jobs around your house that need to be done. Now, I happen to live with a very handy man,
Yes.
and he could do all kinds of handyman work if he wanted to.
So that's a good platform if somebody is really handy, but they don't like to market themselves.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or don't even know how to market themselves.
Yes, because that's another vital part of the side hustle business.
Yes.
What are some considerations when someone is trying to choose a side hustle? Like, how do they determine what's a good match, why they would choose one side hustle over another?
That's a good question. I mean, everybody is different in their comfort level of what they would like to do. Let's say you love to drive and you've seriously considered being part of a platform like Uber or Lyft or something like that, but you don't like people. Then you don't need to be doing that job.
No,
because you have to
that's not a
engage
good
with
match.
people.
Yeah,
That's not a good match. So you might
Yeah.
have a skill, but it doesn't match to what you like to do. Okay. Let's say that you love dogs, but you're allergic to cats. You'd have to get really picky then about what kind of service you could work for. And you might think, well, if I can't take care of all animals, that I probably shouldn't do it. No, you can be super picky. So be picky on that side hustle. Do that thing
Yeah.
that you specifically are going for, but make sure the thing that you want to do matches aspects of your personality. If you have
Right.
to interface with people, you have to be a people person. If you are more of an introvert, maybe you could be a virtual assistant. So you're
Right.
not really interfacing, you're doing everything kind of behind the scenes. There
Yeah.
are many jobs like that you can do.
Well, what's a common error that you see people make when they're working at gaining traction in their side hustle and trying to build it up?
I think people try to scale up far too quickly.
Okay.
They should stick with one level of business, a lower level of business, and then see what you're averaging per week or per month and see if that's good enough, if it's not enough, if it's taking too much of your time. You really need to test the market. And you can test the market by looking at it strictly financially, but you can also test it, and I have a whole chapter on this, by asking your clients to give you a little bit of a score on your ability. That you could ask, set out a survey and give them a
Okay.
1 to a 10 range, or have an open-ended question. Now, I'd like to point out that in my book, I include worksheets in each chapter. So if I say something like, you need to develop a scale and have people rate you, I give you a way to do that. I'm not just saying that and you go, well,
Right.
how
Yeah.
would I do that? I actually give you the methods to do it, whether I've put together that for you or I can send a link. There are links in the Kindle version of the book
Right.
to find a way to do that. So there are ways that you can test that market thoroughly before you really commit to it. And then you get used to a certain level and you think, you know what? I think I want to scale up a bit. And so you take it to the next level,
Mhm.
but not go full on. Like, don't quit your job.
Yeah. No.
Do
Yep.
not quit your corporate job. Even if you hate that corporate job, I'd rather you just change corporate jobs versus strictly side hustle. I mean, I took that risk. I had a substantial savings, so I was able to test it out. But that savings only lasted a year. I
Right.
mean, it's expensive to live without the benefits from a corporate job.
Yeah.
Keep the corporate job, and then there was a time that I was working the corporate job, but I found out that I was still considered full-time at 32 hours a week instead of 40.
Really? Okay.
I was still considered full-time.
Hmm.
So I went back and got some more education in a different field. And so I was allowed to do that in this corporation. I was still paid for my work.
Right.
I still put in way more time than
Yeah.
that, but
Yes.
I was allowed to do that. So there are ways to kind of investigate how to manage your time like that to test out your side hustle.
What's one of your favorite side hustle stories?
Well, I have a reputation of working well with animals, and I got a request out of the blue of a friend of a friend of a contact or something like that, someone I did not know, who
Okay.
called and asked if I would be willing to come to their house for a week. It's really a farm, and take care of 4 rescue horses, a flock of chickens, 3 roosters, 2 dogs, and a cat.
Fun. I would have been all over
And I
that.
thought, well, how hard could this be? You know, I mean, I'm not a horse whisperer, but I think I could do it. So I said, well, why don't I come over
Yeah.
and see what your system is and see if I can do this. So I went over and I followed her around and I thought, you know, farm girl, this could not be that hard. So first day by myself, I go out to the barn and I say to the horses, and I'm like, I'm holding this piece of paper because horses are huge.
Yeah.
They are giant.
I ride every
animals.
week, and
Okay,
she's
so you
huge.
know.
She's huge too.
And
Yeah.
you can step the wrong way and they can step the wrong way, and just by their sheer muscle mass knock you to the ground. They don't mean to do that necessarily, but they're huge. So I'm standing there in front of these 4 horses who want to be fed. And I'm like, listen up, horses, step 1 into your stalls. And I kid you not, the lead horse was like, yes, ma'am. Walked right into his stall.
No
and
way.
then they all got in their stalls. And I was like, okay, lock them in their stalls. I ran around. Okay, so I was just pouring sweat. It was the middle of July, pouring sweat, It's 90,000 degrees outside.
Yeah.
I got it done. I was so happy, proud of myself. I checked the chickens for eggs. I got everything done. I go to bed, probably early. 5:15 a.m. The rooster started crowing outside my bedroom window.
Yes.
Every morning for a week. I was like, I'm doing the best I can. I was still teaching piano. I was still working on everything else with these horses. And, I got a lot of good stories out of it.
Sure.
Would I do it again? Maybe, definitely for more money.
And maybe without the rooster.
Maybe without the roosters. A lot of people were like, oh, you're so lucky. I'm like, yeah, yeah, I'm so lucky. Things can go horribly wrong. Dogs can escape out of their yards, and you're chasing them in your robe and slippers.
Has that
into
happened
the
to
neighbor's
you?
yard. Oh, every dog disaster you can think of has happened to me.
Really?
I've had some sad situations. I am on a lot of my long-term dog clients list. I have a medical say, and I've had to put a dog down while the owners were out of the country and could not get back. I mean, I've had a lot of situations where you just have to go with it. You just have to do the best you can.
Right.
And I've had catering clients who've tried to nickel and dime us to death over 3 unopened bottles of wine. We had a catering client whose oven stopped working an hour before we started serving, and we had to go to the neighbor's house and cook. I mean, just so many disasters can happen. But if you can push through, if you can prove that you can push through and make it happen, that's what they'll tell people.
Awesome.
Their food was excellent, and you're not going to believe what happened, that kind of thing.
And the key in that moment is to go into problem-solving mode. Not who's to blame or this is terrible, this is a disaster, but it's like, okay, this is what we got to work with. Where's the solution? I don't know. Well, let's find it. There's got to be a solution. And there always is, if we're solution. Like you said, using the next door neighbor. And if they're not home, you go to the next door neighbor, right?
Yes. Or you just, there's always a way to solve it. And you have to be, so working freelance, working on the side for a side hustle, you do have to be a bit of a problem solver. You need to have natural problem solving skills. And I do actually, in my book, talk about when it's time to quit. There are times, and I don't mean quit entirely necessarily, but there may be a time that you need to quit that side hustle. It's time to do something else. If you find yourself bawling between gigs, if you find yourself angry and taking that out on your family, if you are so obsessed with your side hustle that you are not able to spend any time with your family, you don't want to, you shut out your friends, they don't get you, if your life has not improved from this side hustle, it's time to say goodbye to that and find something else.
Yeah.
There's something else out there. There always is.
Yeah. And I would add one little step in that, and it's probably in your book, is to take a look and do some introspection. Like, why am I stressed out about this? Why am I suddenly angry? So that you don't bring that next issue into your next side hustle.
Exactly. Yes. That is a very good piece of advice. It has to do with that self-actualization. I could be all,
self-awareness.
Psychobabble. Yes. Knowing yourself, knowing what your limitations are, knowing what your strengths are, knowing where you need to ask for help. And it's always okay to ask for help. Always. I ask for help all the time from other people because I'm not the expert in everything.
Right. You had mentioned a number of things that have gone wrong, and I'm really glad you did, because that brought up a question, and that is, do you carry any sort of insurance, like liability insurance?
Not in my side hustles, but if you are someone, and I do talk about this insurance in the taxes, contracts, insurance chapter.
Okay.
Nobody's favorite chapter is what it's actually called. I do talk about when you might need liability insurance. And that would be, let's say that you have an Airbnb property and you have a pool. You're going to need to have serious insurance there. Let's say that you make and install Murphy beds. Those beds that come out of the wall.
Yes. Yep.
If you install something like that and it hurts somebody, you're going to be liable for that.
Yep.
You need insurance for that. So there are things you do need insurance for and things that you do not. And so you should look into that and just talk to an insurance agent. They'll tell you like, yeah, you're good. For people who Uber out of their own car, your insurance policy may not cover that. You need to check that and be sure. And if you need to increase your insurance, it's probably not by much.
Right. But at least you know what it is and if you're covered or
Yes,
not.
you're prepared.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So what's the best place for our listeners to connect with you, Christine?
Well, you can go to my website, comeonovershow.com.
Okay.
Any way that you want to reach me is on my website.
Great. And we'll sure to make sure that that's link is in the show notes.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what's your best tip, Christine, to inspire others to start or grow their side hustle dream?
I have a whole chapter on increasing your value, and that's increasing your value in the side hustle you're taking on. So let's say that you are a babysitter.
Okay.
And that's a side hustle. It's a very, very good side hustle. If you are in someone's home and you're taking care of their children, can you get the mail for them? Yes, you can. Added value. Can you tidy up the kitchen after you serve their children supper? Yes, you can. Added value. Can you tidy up the whole house when you put them to bed? Put away the toys, get the children involved in putting away the toys, turning off all the lights, just having low lighting, having this peaceful atmosphere when the parents walk in from their fun evening. Yes, you can. These added values cost you nothing.
Yes.
And elevate you to the first call those parents make next time.
Yes.
They want you. Why? Because you made their home comfortable when they walked in. You did not create more work for them before they go to bed or when they get up the next morning. You can do that in any side hustle. If you dog sit, can you tidy up the dog area? Can you wash the dog blankets? Put them in the washer for them when you're done with your hustle? Yes. Can you, if they run out of treats, can you go get more treats and then bill them for that so they don't have to add that to their to-do list? Yes, you can. Can you get the mail for them and their packages while they're out of town and you're dog sitting? Yes, you can. You can do all those things. It costs you very little to nothing to do that. And then you will be the number one call when they need a dog sitter. So there are always little things you can do, even when we cater. When we are done cleaning up the kitchen and they're still having a blast in another room, laughing and talking over their French press coffee, we create a little tableau in the kitchen of the flowers that we used, a little flower vase that we brought in from another room, a little bit of the leftover dessert, a little note of thank you, and we create this little beautiful setting so that when they walk into their low light kitchen that's perfectly clean, there's a memory of what happened that night. Did that cost us anything? No, nothing. But they love it and we're their first call.
And not only that, you're going to get referrals.
Absolutely. Because referrals is really where the side hustle business shines for scaling up. Word of mouth is the best advertising you can get.
Yeah. And you gave us just what you were talking about. You gave us an excellent example of that when you talked about when you were dog sitting and noticed that the weeds needed pulling, that the garden beds needed fixing, and you just did that and wowed them.
Yeah. I did.
And some people would say, well, I don't want to do anything that I'm not getting paid for. But early on in my career, and I think one of the reasons that I was successful at it is that a mentor told me, you should never be paid what you're worth, because then there's no incentive for somebody to pay you more. It's like, if I'm already being paid what I'm worth, why would somebody give me a raise? So I'm demonstrating these add-ons, and then, you get more referrals, you can increase your rates, and it's a lovely upward spiral.
And if you're already sitting outside with the dog in the shade, and you pull some weeds, and if they don't hire you, it's okay.
Yeah.
You were just sitting there anyway. Why not make use of your hands and pull some weeds? And, I felt better after pulling the weeds.
Yeah. And it's fun for the dog too. I used to have a German Shepherd, and I'd be gardening outside and he'd be running around, and it was just like part of the thing. So the dog would love it too. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Christine, for your tips, not only from your own side hustle background, stacking 6 of them, but insights that resulted in your book. And of course, thank you for being today's Side Hustle Hero.
Well, it was an absolute delight to be on your show.
As you strive to start and grow your venture alongside your full-time work, it's crucial that the time that you allocate to it is laser focused. 1 hour of true undistracted focus, your phone face down, on silent, no interruptions, is far more effective than a full evening of half-hearted work interrupted by social media, Netflix, name your distractions. Maybe your biggest distraction is sitting next to you right now. We briefly touched on self-awareness. Deep down, you know what distracts you and what you need to do to create an environment free from those distractions. It is a trade-off, and I assume that you are clear on your why, the reason you're working on your side hustle. Let that motivation drive you so that the thought of a successful side hustle becomes more appealing than the habitual distractions. A mentor once told me that those who watch a lot of television are actually watching others achieve their dreams. Instead, let's trade our time wisely. Each and every day, we are gifted with 1,440 minutes. This same amount of time is available to both the most productive individuals and those who accomplish a whole lot less. Time is the great equalizer. The difference lies in how we utilize it. I trust you'll choose wisely. Well, that's a wrap for today. You'll find links to Christine's website and the full show notes at our website, sidehustlehero.com. If you're enjoying what you're seeing in this podcast, it would be so appreciated if you would take a moment and add your comment, share the episode, and please subscribe. It'll let others know that there's valuable content here to help them start or grow their side hustle. Thanks for watching, and hustle on.